Okay, so I actually wrote a second sermon for this, and I realized after sitting through one sermon right before y'all are going to vote about calling me potentially as your lay pastor, it was probably a bad idea to make you sit through a second sermon. So if you want to see my notes on how all of this um, fits in with the story of Jacob and his wrestling match, then just email me and I'll send it over to you. I'm not going to make you sit through another 20 minutes or so. But I do want to draw some attention to some of the parallels that we do have when it comes to being a church, especially a church in a time like this, when it is a little tumultuous. So I'm going off script here. It may get a little weird. I'm going to try and keep it to under 5 minutes, but we'll see. As we go into this time that's already happening all around us, there's a lot of unknowns. There's a lot of things where we might not be sure how we're going to tackle them, what the wrestling is going to look like in the future. What are our challenges even going to be? How can we predict them to be ready for them? And the story of Jacob and wrestling God is a good one for this, because Jacob and God are engaged in this wrestling match, and it's not for dominance. Jacob comes to this part of the story with some pretty deep things that he is sitting with. He is feeling some guilt. He's feeling some hesitation about going and meeting with his brother, who, if you're remembering the story, he stole his birthright. So there's a lot going on with Jacob. He is not our ideal, like, spotless, person that we're going to be looking to for moral guidance at this point in the story. And he's sitting there in the dark. He sent his family ahead already, right? And potentially into harm's way, because he's sending them to where his brother is, the brother he wronged so deeply. He's in the dark, and all of a sudden someone starts wrestling with him. But at the end of that, after an entire night of struggling, Jacob asks for God's blessing, and God, who we can presume is who Jacob is wrestling with, gives it. And that's important, because that tells us that no matter what comes up, as long as we engage in that struggle with God, we are going to be blessed and we are going to be able to handle it. And so I bring this up because as you're going to be discussing this call this morning, I know that as we are in the middle of this weird time, things are going to come up. We're going to have different ideas. We're going to struggle because we come from different places. We come from different upbringing, and we will have different ways that we'll want to approach things. And the struggle is helpful in this. The wrestling is helpful. And as long as we do that wrestling with God as part of it, then it will be blessed. Then we will get through it. To ignore something and to pretend it hasn't happened is not going to be a fruitful way to go forward. And to not address issues as they come up, especially the big issues that are coming to us as a, hopefully one of these days post-COVID church. What's that going to mean for us? What are we going to deal with? How are we going to engage those questions? Are we going to engage them embracing the fact that there will be discussion, there will be struggle, there will be wrestling and challenge? We are going to be uncomfortable. Or are we going to say, now let's just go back to the way it was. It'll be fine. I would like to offer to you today that I am deeply grateful for being with you in these months leading up to today, in the thick of things with all of this struggle. And I've been really thankful of the way that we have talked things through and dealt with them head on and embraced the challenges that come to us. And I offer that will be something that I will continue and embrace with you. And engage in those hard questions and make sure that what we're doing is leading the church, lowercase c and capital C, the big overall, the church of the world, where we are all connected to every other Christian out there, leading us in the direction of healing and justice and greater connection to God. And so that's my little not sermon that I'm tacking on to the end of this for you before we go in and discuss the possibilities in our future. I look forward to talking to you all in a few minutes. Have a wonderful morning and see you soon.